Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to Rising Sun Retro. Today is my 2-year anniversary on YouTube and I can't believe how things have changed. When I made my Resident Evil 2 video last year, I had a couple dozen subscribers, but things have really started to take off lately. And that's mostly due to the shorts that I do. Of course I love doing them, but I really hope you find the time to enjoy these longer videos too. I put a lot of work into them and I hope that they're entertaining for everyone. As per tradition, we're tackling another game you might be familiar with. I started with Resident Evil, we celebrated a year with Resident Evil 2, so it's only natural that I start off year 3 with
Biohazard 3.
Resident Evil 3 Nemesis is known as Biohazard 3 Last Escape in Japan. It was released in Japan on September 22nd, 1999, the North American release on November 11th of the same year. Europe wouldn't get their hands on it until the following year on February 21st. The development isn't quite as famous as the development for the previous title, and there does seem to be some conflicting information, but Resident Evil 3 started off as many different games actually. Originally, Hideki Kamiya, the director of Resident Evil 2, was going to direct the next game in the series, with Hunk taking the starring role, before his project was shifted to the then upcoming PlayStation 2, with the original idea eventually being shelved completely. Needing a game to be out soon, however, and Capcom claiming that they wanted to please the fans apparently, they decided to promote a guiding game which saw a random character try to escape Raccoon City into the new Resident Evil 3, where Kamiya was then to work on Resident Evil 4. It's a bit convoluted, but I think that about sums it up. The original idea of a random guy was reworked, with Jill Valentine of Resident Evil 1 fame being put into the game as the main character. This was definitely the correct choice in my opinion, as it ties us all back to the original game, and I'm a sucker for older characters coming back into a series after a short absence and totally kicking butt. Simply put, the story has you playing as Jill Valentine in 1998. If you've played RE2, you'll know what happens to Raccoon City, and Jill is right there as it's beginning to unfold. The city's becoming infected and Jill has to fight her way out. Let's back up a bit though and talk about it. First things first, gone are 2 playable characters. You only get Jill this time around to select from. The game is about her escaping from Raccoon City, so you won't get Chris or anyone else. Leon and Claire are just arriving into town shortly, but you won't be running into them. However, there is a break in gameplay and you do actually play as someone else for a short time. There's also 2 modes, essentially a hard mode and an easy mode called heavy and light respectively in Japanese. I'll explain the differences a bit more later, but the hard mode of course adds a limit to your ink ribbon, so be sure not to save too much or else you'll find yourself in a pickle like I did. So before you even move Jill around, you'll notice that they've upped the cutscenes. I played 3 right after 2, and I immediately noticed improvements in modeling and scale. And they're not afraid to use them. They use the rendered cutscenes quite a bit in this game, and that's not the only thing improved from 2. You get this sweet new dodging mechanic, although I'm still not skilled enough to use it even after a couple playthroughs. Jill's a fighter. She's not going to just take zombie bites laying down, unless you're out of health. You also get this sick 180 turn move too, and while this might not seem so impressive, for the tank controls that you're stuck with, it's a godsend. You'll also find that there's more zombies populating the screen at once, a bit more variety and faster speeds too. You'll find a lot of zombies just completely standing still when you come out the other end of a door, but once they realize you're there, they'll charge right at you. It's a nice change of pace from the usual lethargic type that you might expect. Jill has quite the arsenal to ward off the zombies this time. You get your standard pistol and knife, which I still never use, a way better pistol, but you can also get the shotgun, an even better shotgun, a grenade launcher, a magnum, a mine thrower, rocket launcher, and Gatling gun. The last one's a bit of overkill and you need special circumstances to get it. I really like everything except for the knife, again I just never use it. And the mine thrower. I just couldn't find this thing useful and I preferred the shotgun or the grenade launcher. You can get an assault rifle too, and it's given to you for free on easy mode, and it's pretty good. Another thing new to Resident Evil 3 is the alternative pathways. There are certain moments in the game where you have to choose between 2 choices, and a third one which is to do nothing. Doing this is going to affect the game and it's going to change up the scenarios a bit. It adds to the game's replayability, and since you don't have anyone else to play through with, this is a decent compromise. Running around with Jill, you'll find Raccoon City to be tight and claustrophobic at times. The stores and buildings you enter will give you some breathing room, but in the alleyways, you'll be fighting zombies in a compact space that makes it hard to just run around them, which is something I would have done in the previous 2 games. Until you really get their movements and patterns down, it's going to be really tough to just zip past them, although I have seen people do it online. And because of the number of zombies, you're just going to have to take some of them head on. I love these early sections though because it adds more to the lore of the series, and it's cool to expand on what we saw at the beginning of Resident Evil 2. You even get to go into the police station. I told you, I'm a sucker for when games do this. It has the original music and everything. It's so cool. You'll even see my man Marvin, but unfortunately he's out of commission. A neat little touch here is that you can't actually run through him like you can dead people, so it's a sign that he's still alive and kicking, which we know to be true because of Resident Evil 2. But because you know Resident Evil 2 doesn't mean you know 3. Half of the police station is blocked off and you're gonna have to find your way around through the back rooms. And in Resident Evil fashion, there's a bunch of zombies waiting for you to come on in. You could even make your way to the STARS room too. And no, you won't find any weird pictures of Rebecca and Wesker's desk, but you will find plenty of items and hints to get better weapons too. The locker here offers a magnum or a grenade launcher, and it's totally random. I've loaded the same save a couple times and it turned out differently each time. Seriously, pray that you get the grenade launcher, because the magnum to me feels like an end of the game weapon. There's less ammo for it, and I feel like I'm just wasting shots unless it's on like a final boss or something. So while there wasn't much to the police station, it was a nice little trip and I enjoyed it a lot. It's another small detail, but you could even see the engine improvements here, but the zombies are able to actually walk down the steps on the second floor. I love these little incremental changes that might not seem like a big deal, but they do make the experience all that more enjoyable. After leaving the police station and searching around Raccoon City for a bit, you make it to the newspaper office, but not before being attacked by tons of zombies, animals, and in particular dogs. I swear, there are so many dogs in this game. They seem to be everywhere. They have upped the dog count at least 4 times over, and depending on the position you're standing in, if they all gang up on you and attack you at the same time, they are really tough and they can take you out quick. And if you're playing on the Japanese version with auto-aiming turned on automatically, well, it can completely ruin your targeting. So once you get to the newspaper office, you'll come across a guy named Carlos. He's nice, although he works for Umbrella, and, well, they're not so nice. From now on, you'll be working with him. However, your party's ruined by this guy. That's right, I've been kind of dancing around this for a while, but here it is. This is Nemesis. And by this point, he's actually shown up a few times already. Remember Tyrant from RE2? Well, this guy is worse. He's grotesque, disgusting, he has these weird tentacle things that he could shoot out of his hands too. He's insanely persistent, and he's tough as nails. Bad news, he's out to get Jill and the rest of the STARS members. He's the one who infected Brad, darn it. He'll follow you quite closely, and he'll even wait for you while you go into a safe room. Even the music changes, and it's a sign that he's literally there outside and he ain't leaving. He'll literally run at Jill faster than any enemy up until this point. He's a real threat and a true nemesis, you might say. When you play the game and you think things are getting easy and quiet, he'll be sure to rear his head, so you have to stay alert. However, if you're a seasoned player and you know how to dodge well, you can take him down and he'll drop sick weapon parts. You can use these to get those awesome weapons I told you about, and it's not easy, so be warned. After escaping Nemesis and eventually making your way through the train car, you'll meet the rest of the mercenaries. They're Umbrella hired guns, but again, not bad. Especially not this guy here. He's Nikolai, and he's definitely not a bad guy. Yeah, he's a bad guy. You have to go back out into the city and get a few more things on this here shopping list. No big deal, except now there's more zombies, more creatures, like this licker who doesn't do any licking, but instead humps. He's called the Drain Demos and Brainsuckers? Ugh, that was close. They're kind of similar, but they're not exactly the same thing. But anyways, after running through town, avoiding all the undead, and making it back to the train car, Nemesis shows up and you have to get the show on the road, literally. The train car takes off and one of the mercenaries sacrifices himself to take out the big bad guy. All's well that ends well, but actually no, not really, because the train car crashes and you'll end up at the clock tower. It's okay, it's not another mansion, I promise. It's kinda like a mansion. You'll explore the area, do some puzzles, and even run into giant spiders. You know, remember those guys? They're still as poisonous as ever and still annoying, so keep the blue herbs on you. Everything's good and dandy until Nemesis shows up and takes out your escape helicopter. And this scene too, even depending on what event you chose, things might play out differently. But either way, you gotta fight him, and you better come with some healing items because I didn't, and I was really naive. Even with dodging, I couldn't best him, and I had to replay the clock tower from the beginning in order to have enough items to take him down. Really, he just takes Jill down though with a fresh T-virus infection. Here is where we transition to Carlos. It's not a full other scenario, but hey, it's good enough. His job is to make it to the hospital, and not just any hospital, the Spencer Hospital. What could possibly go wrong? Oh, great, you're immediately greeted by hunters. Yeah, these guys. They're back from Resident Evil 1 after taking an absence from the second game. And all of their head cut and goodness is back too. Great. Seriously though, you have to be careful because even if you're on caution, they could take you out. Carlos has this here cool assault rifle though, so they're not too bad to hunt down with, and it's a pretty good weapon against them. Here in this hospital is where you're going to make the cure for the T-virus, but for some reason this hospital also has these other kind of hunters at the bottom just hanging out in tubes. I know, it's a Spencer hospital and, they're evil and stuff, but really, does nobody notice? I guess it was the extra security at the doors, maybe? I don't know. Thankfully, Carlos is a smart guy. He gets the treatment and he's ready to leave, but he notices a nice block of fresh C4 waiting to blow the entire place to pieces. I wonder who put that there. So Carlos saves Jill even though the Nemesis tries to come back to get you. Avoid him, just forget about it, cure Jill, and she'll be on her way. You can leave the clock tower and head over to the park this time. To be honest, it's not a very nice park, and you're going to be encountering all sorts of amphibious bad creatures, like these annoying snakes, which I could just never seem to hit for some reason. So you work your way through the park, and eventually you'll find your way to the dead factory, called the Disused Plant in Japanese. I'm not sure why they changed the name. I guess Disused Plant doesn't sound as intense as Dead Factory, I guess. I don't know. They both technically make sense since nobody's working there anymore, but yeah, whatever. Of course, this part is also a bit standard Resident Evil, get through the factory at the end, make it to the final boss, and... Oh wait, Nikolai's here to greet you. I can't wait to see what he does. Oh, that's right, he tries to shoot you. Now, he won't always be here, to be fair, depending on your playthrough, but this guy will be. That's right, you get another showdown with Nemesis, and this one is actually pretty unique. I like this one a lot. You have to spray it with acid, pretty much. Problem is that he's smart, and if you hit the switch too early, he'll back away from it, so timing is key. You have to be quick because there's a timer going down while you're fighting him. After beating him, you better find your way out of there quickly because there's a giant missile coming to Raccoon City with your name on it. Well, I mean, not your name, but the city's, and they plan to blow it to high hell in hopes of cleaning up all of the zombies. Of course, Jill manages to make it out of the factory, but then you'll have to fight Nemesis again, fully transformed, wanting to go at it. You could try to take him head on, but I advise against it. Push these batteries in and use this here giant super cannon. I love it. Just amazing. Look at this thing. It makes no sense, but it looks awesome. I have no idea why they have this, but it'll blow Nemesis to shreds, ending the journey once and for all. And all's well that ends well. I just love the atmosphere of this game. I love the expanded look at Raccoon City with its haunting aura, spooky creatures just ready to come out at any second, but also callbacks to earlier games. I think Resident Evil 3 doesn't use these as a crutch, but rather a bit of seasoning. The police station's a classic, the clock tower's a bit derivative, but in all the right ways. The hospital feels familiar yet different. It's just a great mix. The ending at the park and the underground facility wasn't the strongest thing in the world, but I still did enjoy it. My favorite locations have to be the beginning, uptown and downtown. But honestly, you'll have to grow to like them because there's going to be a lot of backtracking in this game. It feels like Resident Evil 1 in that regard, whereas in 2, if you got the right rhythm going and you get all the items correctly, you can kind of just go to the next area pretty quickly. I think they did this slightly to pad the game out a bit, but hey, I'm all here for it, especially with Nemesis chasing you around. If you're a skilled player, Resident Evil 3 should take you about 4 to 5 hours at most. It's a bit longer than a single story playthrough of Resident Evil 2 in my experience, which takes only a couple hours, but I played through that one much more. It's a shorter game, but it does lack that extra scenario, but I do like what they did with the story. Although I'm not sure what they were thinking with this outfit, I do like seeing Jill come back and just be as cool as ever. The events of Arklay really changed her. She's combat tested, weathered, and wary, and can fight. She's taken the initiative in her own hands, and it's what saves her life on multiple occasions. It's a lot of fun playing as Jill. It's like they really just managed to perfect the original RE engine for this game to make it the most fun it could be. Carlos and Nikolai are good side characters. Carlos is struggling with his role as a hired gun by Umbrella, the same company that caused all of this damage in the first place. He confronts this when him and Jill are in the clock tower together. It's nice to see this characterization, and it was definitely refreshing. Nikolai is just cold, he's calculating, he's got that hidden agenda. There's just nothing redeeming about the guy, nothing at all. Of course, there's the big bad, Nemesis, a great addition. Resident Evil 2 had it to some extent with Tyrant, but he only showed up in B scenarios, and sparingly on top of that. Nemesis feels like a constant threat that can be around the corner at any second, making the strolls down the streets of Raccoon City that much scarier. I gotta admit, it does get a bit ridiculous when he gets a rocket launcher that has 99% accuracy, and I can never seem to escape this thing. Tight corners, bioweapons, a true nightmare. And I do like that whole choose your own adventure sort of aspect to the game. Although the ending is still the same, it still changes things up enough to keep it fun. There's even a scene where Nikolai attacks you too, which I didn't get on a few of my playthroughs. And of course the music is as good as ever. It has Resident Evil 2 vibes, but it's changed up a bit. There's a lot of PlayStation action soundy bits, if you know what I mean, in here, and I really like that. When you're forced to make a decision, for example, the music amplifies the pressure in that moment, or even during the boss fights. It's familiar, but it's well done. I think this ties into the original concept of the game, one that was more action-based. Masami Ueda returns from 1 and 2 and does a great job here, along with Saori Maeda. It feels like the true musical culmination of this classic series. I mentioned the 2 difficulties, and trust me, if you're new to the game or series, play easy mode. Throw the pride away. The main differences are that on easy, you get to start with 10 item slots, more weapons like the assault rifle, auto dodging is enabled, lower enemy HP, more ammo, and infinite saves. That last one is key. If you play on hard, you'll start with 8 items, get limited amounts of ink ribbons, stronger enemies, but you do get extra costumes, which are pretty sweet, and you get those cool guns for beating Nemesis. I just think that it's really hard to do and to plan everything on your first go through, especially that you'll find yourself dying a lot and it's hard not to save all the time, but the problem is you have to conserve the ink ribbons. On this last playthrough I got way ahead of myself and I lost out on quite a lot of time just because I was saving so much, and there was a stretch where I couldn't save for almost an hour. It was around the time where I had to get items for the train car, and my goodness, was I walking on eggshells literally everywhere I went. I barely had any health either, which meant I was dying a lot and I had to keep restarting, and I lost so much time in this section. Auto-aim can be helpful, but I found it so many times to be really annoying, and I recommend turning it off if you can. Even if I would reset my position, it would still auto-aim to that random target, and yeah, I would end up dying. And always with Resident Evil, and I can't stress this enough, be sure to read the files, especially when it comes to ammo making. That's one of the new features in this game, where you're going to get gunpowder and you can use the reload tool to make what you need. Different combinations give you different results, so be sure to read up so you don't make a mistake. And as always, I'm playing the Japanese version of the game. It's a bit weird though, because not only the region matters, but also the version of the game, with some being more censored than others, or censors in one bit and not the other. As I mentioned, the name is different. Internationally, it's known as Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, of course named after the big bad guy chasing you throughout the game. In Japan, it's Biohazard 3 Last Escape. It feels very 90s, but I like both titles, I think they work. The Japanese PlayStation version also has some info on Dino Crisis and a bit of different menuing going on, but it's more or less the same game. There's actually quite a few releases of this game too, on PlayStation, Dreamcast, Windows, and GameCube. The Dreamcast and Windows versions are cool because they have extra costumes and special features that are unlocked from the get-go. That special mode is known as Mercenaries Mode, Operation Jackal. This features all 3 of those Umbrella mercenaries, and they have 2 minutes to make it to the safe room or else they're gonna blow up, literally. This mode is a lot of fun and it ramps up the tension even more. It's definitely very actiony. At the end of each run you'll get some money, and if you save up enough you get some sick weapons. And if you got a lot of courage, Nikolai runs around with a knife and a pistol. It's perfect. If you manage to kill a zombie with the knife, you'll get a huge bonus, by the way. I'm glad Resident Evil 3 turned out the way that it did. It was a lot of fun having another adventure with Jill and taking one more trip to Raccoon City before it was handed a most unfortunate fate. Sure, the voice acting still isn't the best, but it's much improved and there are a lot of callbacks, whereas some might say too many callbacks. I don't think so. I think it's well done. It improves a lot of the standard classic RE gameplay and it still feels good even today. For this video I broke tradition and I played the GameCube version actually. It has higher resolution textures which I wanted for the video, and I just loved using a GameCube controller. You'll be surprised at how well it goes with Resident Evil, I'm not even joking. If you can get your hands on it, give it a go. The tank controls are so much better with a nice comfy joystick. I do have to say though that finishing Resident Evil 3 makes me a bit sad, since this is the last of the mainline RE games on PlayStation. It has that special aesthetic and vibe I just really like a lot. Everything afterwards would become 3D, and yeah, we live in the era of remakes. So these older games might be forgotten, but I think that's a shame because they still do offer something unique, and it's something I really, really like. Of course, the best way to play them all would be in sequential order. And my opinion from the previous video still stands. I would still probably pick 2 to be the one to play if you could only pick just one. But 3 is definitely not far behind, and hey, it still holds up. Hey everyone, thanks again for watching another video. 2 years, I can't believe it. I hope to make more videos like this and I hope you enjoy them. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.
Jill, sandwich.